There's a brand new experience at the Vatican and almost nobody knows it exists. I recently went to check it out and I was the only one there. It's called Pétros Enì, and it's hidden inside one of the smaller domes of St. Peter's Basilica. This is a space that's never been open to the public until now. If you're new here, I'm Alyssa, founder of the RomeWise and FlorenceWise websites and this YouTube channel. I've lived in Rome since 2001, I'm married to a Roman, I love my city, and I know it like the back of my hand. On this channel, I share my top insider tips and practical advice to help you have your best visit here. On today's video, I'll share what Pétros Enì is all about, where it is, and how you can visit it. I'll take you with me for part of the visit, although once inside, photos and video are strictly forbidden. But don't worry, I'll do my best to share exactly what it's like. You won't want to miss the end of this video where I show you where you wind up and share what to do next. All right, let's dive in. Pétros Enì, which is Greek for Peter is here, is a new permanent immersive experience inside St. Peter's Basilica. It's unrelated to the Vatican museums and the Sistine Chapel, so to see it, you're going to have to enter St. Peter's Basilica first. It only recently opened, and I find that many people, even Romans, have never heard of it. The exhibition is housed in the Octagonal Halls, a cluster of chambers inside one of the supporting pillars of the basilica. This area is topped by a smaller dome that forms part of the church's structure. It's not to be confused with the main cupola above the central nave. These halls were open to the public for the first time ever for this exhibit. To reach this exhibit from inside St. Peter's Basilica, you take an elevator that's just next to the elevator used to climb the dome. While that elevator takes you to the roof of St. Peter's Basilica, from where you can climb all the way to the lantern, this elevator simply takes you straight to the exhibit in the smaller dome. When I visited, I was escorted by staff up the elevator and to the exhibit. The staff don't give you a tour, but they do accompany you throughout the exhibit. In fact, a tour would be useless because the exhibit is actually a presentation. It's a series of films and multimedia, and you're going to learn everything you need to know about the exhibit inside the exhibit itself. The title of the exhibit is Pétros Enì. So where does that come from and what does it mean? The phrase Pétros Enì comes from an extraordinary discovery. Between 1939 and 1949, they were excavating under the Vatican under orders from Pope Pius XII. They found a fragment of red plaster near what is believed to be the tomb of the Apostle St. Peter. And scratched onto this fragment was the Greek phrase Pétros Enì, Peter is here. So this exhibition is a story told in two parts. The first part of the exhibit is the story of the life of St. Peter. You'll be seated for this part, and you'll be listening to music and watching the story unfold before you on the walls of the cupola. The story is beautifully told, and they use a lot of images from inside St. Peter's Basilica, including a lot of the mosaics there. And the story goes all the way from the life of St. Peter, his relationship with Jesus Christ, and up through his martyrdom. After which it is presumed that he was buried where St. Peter's Basilica is today. After you watch these films about the life of St. Peter and the subsequent cult that was built around the site of his martyrdom, you're led into the third and final stage of this exhibition. This is a much larger room, almost like a theater, and you'll be seated and watch an amazing story unfold before you on the wall. Before the film begins and after it's finished, you'll be able to see two models of St. Peter's Basilica. The first is a model of the original St. Peter's Basilica as it was built under Emperor Constantine. We call this basilica the Constantinian Basilica. And the second model is of the current basilica, the one that was built during the Renaissance and finished in the Baroque era. But the film that you watch that tells the story of the evolution of this site from just a mere cult location into the building of the first basilica into the basilica we know today is an extraordinary experience. At times I found myself in tears, at times I found myself with my mouth hanging open. I was just amazed at how well they told this story through images, music, light, 3D renderings. It's truly unique. One part of the movie that I loved in particular was when they did a kind of a cutaway where you can see where St. Peter's tomb is beneath the basilica, and then where the papal tombs are above that, and then where the main floor of the basilica is today, and then where the cupola is more or less where we're sitting. If you haven't figured out by now, I highly recommend doing this visit because it doesn't take very long and it's truly wonderful, and you really get a sense of the history of this church, but it's not exhausting. This was a joint collaboration between various entities, including the Fabbrica di San Pietro, Microsoft, and a couple of other imaging firms. They used more than 400,000 high-resolution photographs to build a digital 3D twin of the entire basilica, top to bottom. And this digital image was the basis for the show, but they show it in lots of different ways, including 3D images that sort of spin and you can see it on different axes. It's really eye-opening. Because photos and video are not allowed inside of the exhibit, I'm sharing a few clips from the websites of these companies that participated in the project. In the description below, I'm also linking to these websites so you can visit them individually and learn more about the project. The entire thing lasts maybe 30 minutes, and when you're done, you'll be escorted back to the elevator that you used to arrive at this cupola. When you take the elevator back down, you pop out inside of St. Peter's Basilica, much as you would if you were coming back down from climbing the dome. At this point, you're left alone and you can explore the basilica on your own. But don't go anywhere just yet. As soon as they escort you into the basilica and leave you alone, stay right where you are. Then look straight up above you and you'll see the cupola where you just were. Now, this is a cupola to the side of the main altar, and many people don't visit this section. It's not part of the basilica that most people get to. So between the time when they had me leave the elevator bank and enter St. Peter's Basilica, and before I was sort of pushed into the crowds of the basilica, I was kind of alone in this spot underneath the cupola where I had just been. And besides being able to enjoy the art around me and look up at the cupola where I had just been and take some pictures, I also enjoyed having this moment where I could reflect on what I had just seen. So how do you book a visit to the Pétros Enì exhibit? As I mentioned, this is unrelated to the Vatican Museums and the Sistine Chapel. This is something you do inside of St. Peter's Basilica. And to my knowledge, the only way to get a ticket is through the basilica itself. And there are two ways you can do this. You can purchase the ticket on site, or you can purchase the ticket in advance, which I recommend. First of all, space is limited and it could sell out. Second of all, if you book this in advance online, you're going to pay that €7, which gets you an audio guide, but also presumably gets you a shorter security line to enter St. Peter's Basilica. If you don't book online or you don't want to book online and you get to the Basilica, just head down to the basement and there you will see where you can purchase this ticket. At the time I'm making this video for you, the ticket costs €20 or €27 if you purchase it online in advance, which comes with the audio guide. I believe this is money well spent. Now, you may be wondering how you can combine this visit with your other visits to St. Peter's Basilica, including climbing the dome, visiting the papal crypts, even visiting St. Peter's tomb itself. If you really want to do this exhibit, I would book this one in advance because I think space is most limited here, more limited for this than it is for climbing the dome. Because this is an experience where you're seated and there are only so many seats available. For climbing the dome, they don't really sell out. Sometimes you'll find that you can't get tickets in advance online, but you can always buy them in person on site. So if you want to visit this Pétros Enì exhibit and you also want to climb St. Peter's Dome, here's what I suggest. Book your Pétros Enì exhibit first. That's going to come with the €7 audio guide. If you want to, and you can, book the dome climb also on the same day as the Pétros Enì exhibit, just make sure they're at least an hour apart from each other. Otherwise, I personally would book Pétros Enì first, and when I came down from it, then I would go head over to the ticket office, buy my ticket, and climb the dome when I'm ready. You can book them both in advance online, but you're sort of wasting €7 because you get the audio guide with both tickets, and you only need it once. Yes, if you purchase your dome climb ticket in advance, then you get to skip the line to purchase tickets. But personally, I would just want to have the Pétros Enì exhibit all set to go, and then I would want to climb the dome when I'm ready, and I would just head to the ticket office, purchase my tickets, and head on up. There can be something of a wait to purchase tickets, but the line moves quickly. And if you're wondering what it's like to climb the dome, how much time you need, what you're going to see up there, watch this video.